So this is for my drawing class, so slightly intermediate class. It's my drawing class. We are going to be exploring drawing landscapes at this point. And so what I want to do first, I think it's a really good introduction to sort of how to look at landscapes. And that's that I want to have you do some what I call thumbnail sketches. And you're not going to spend more than a minute, maybe 2 minutes at most on each one of these. It's to get the essence, the most important parts of the landscape onto your page. If you look at this landscape, there's a whole row of Rocky Mountains in through here. There's actually some that are intermediate here, and then there's one that's in the background. There's a little bridge going across through here. There's a river in the bottom. So those are the basic pieces of what this is all about. And then I've actually marked on this picture to break this into 4 pieces so that I can see what might be in this quadrant, what's in this quadrant, what's in that quadrant, what's in that quadrant. And so with those little pieces of information, I can then do a very quick little sketch that's going to show me where those basic pieces are. Let me go ahead and do one of these for you, and then I'm going to give you 4 different photographs and have you do a thumbnail for each one. After we've done thumbnails, then we'll talk more about how to approach doing a more finished drawing of this. So I'm going to give myself a little area here that's about 2 inches by 3 inches. I don't want to go too big, because if I go too big, I'm just going to start doing too much detail in here. And so now in this, I can mark my 4 little marks just so that I've got those. And now I'm looking at this, and this starts a little above that mark. It starts a little above. This one is a little bit below. And then when you get down into here, it's maybe halfway. So this piece of rock comes down in like this, and then works its way back up to there. And then the bottom of this, we're maybe a quarter of an inch away through here. The bottom of this river, it's going to work its way back just a little bit, and then that bridge comes across and straight through here. Then these trees work their way in through on this side, coming to, halfway. Actually goes to halfway. And then there's a big cloud up in here. And there's more little clouds if we want to say there's some little clouds. And there is our thumbnail. Now, if we want to go one step further on this thumbnail, I could say that this is dark. And this is all darker than the sky behind. And it's darkest right in here. Now, there is another little set of hills in here that we could tell ourselves that they're there in behind here if we wanted to. So hopefully I haven't spent more than 2 minutes on that. I should give myself a timer, make sure, see how that goes. Actually, that's a good idea. Let me, where did I put it? Let me put the timer and we'll do a second one. I'll time it and we'll see how long it actually has taken me. I have my timer going. We're going to do 1 minute. 1 minute. See how much we can get done in 1 minute. Okay, so it's starting for 1 minute. And I've got to get my next picture up. Actually, let me do this one here. Let me start that timer over again. Cancel and then restart it. All right, now we're ready. So I'm going to do the same thing. 2 inch by 3 inch. Mark it in half, mark it in half, mark it in half. Now, this time, my land is a good portion of this, and that horizon is about halfway through this part of it, and this is sort of like doing those contour drawings that I had you guys do. Comes out and around and finishes somewhere in there. Pathway starts a little past half here, rolls in less than half, circles back, and we're maybe halfway through this. That That's the one side of it. The other side starts in here somewhere, comes in quite narrow until it disappears into that part of it. That's what I got done in 1 minute. So I'll probably need to give you guys 2 minutes for this. I have to stop that. I might give you guys 2 minutes for this, especially if you still need to get your box drawn. But that's the essence of what we want to put on there, just to get the gist of what's happening. Of course, there's going to be a figure that goes in here that overlaps. Figure that comes down, has arms coming off of it. There's a tree in here, but that's the gist of it. Okay, so that's a thumbnail, that's a thumbnail. Only the most important pieces of the image are going to get put into that thumbnail. And then, you know, when we do the more detailed drawing, we'll come back and do more of it. So I'm going to be giving you 4 images. This was our first one. That's image number 1. That is Moab, Utah. This is the beach in Alameda. This is a river somewhere in Utah between Zion and Moab. And then number 4 is a scene in Zion National Park. So those are going to be the 4 images that I'm going to give you. We're going to have like 2 minutes to do the thumbnails. So I want to talk a little bit about drawing using a grid. If you're out plein air drawing, this is very helpful to be able to do this, because knowing what's in each one of these quadrants will make a big difference on how easy it is to draw this. And so what I'm going to do first here, I've taken, this is a sleeve, you know, for putting a piece of paper in, and I took a marking pen and I marked it into 4 quadrants each direction equally. And now on my page, I'm going to just go ahead and use this same size. We could use this for making it bigger. So if I wanted to make this twice the size, I could use this, just keeping my proportions the same. So if this is a 2 inch by 1.5 inch, then when I went to bigger, I might want to go 4 inches by 3 inches for each one of these, so that my proportions were the same. And so I'm going to just make myself a little line here. And that goes to here, goes to there. And then that, we have to turn this back because the sleeve goes on further. Okay, so now I'm going to put my drawing into my sleeve. So this printed on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Now, if you had it print up smaller, you could make a smaller grid for it. So now that I've got this grid on here, I can see that at the very center of my piece, this mountain range comes through there. That this mountain range at the top is just a little below there, working its way down through here, working its way down through here. So if we do a contour drawing, so this is like the far mountains, the top of the far mountains. And then if we look carefully here, we can see there's actually a couple more sort of rows of mountain. This is probably where the dirt comes down off those rocks and starts being a hill. And then further in the foreground here, we have another hill that has these plants right on the top of them, running all the way through here, coming up into here. And then in the foreground, I've got some bushes that are pretty close. I have a row right here that has some trees behind it. I've got a tree here in the front. So using that grid, I can then put this information onto my sheet of paper without having to fight with it. And now that I've got these lines on here, I'm going to go ahead and put them lightly onto my page, and we'll erase them later so they won't be in the final picture. And I don't want to do them too dark because I want to be able to erase them pretty easily. I'm using a 3B pencil just because I wanted to make my lines pretty easy. Okay, so now my page is gridded up. I see one of these lines got moved over here. Actually, it just bounced. It's fine. It's just that end didn't hold against the ruler. Now, my drawing, so I can start at whatever point I want to. I'm going to actually start in that background. Frequently, if I'm doing a pen drawing where I can't erase, I'll actually start with the foreground stuff because I know that has to stay in front of everything. And if that was the case, then I would do this tree first. But because I can erase and I can sort of see where things are going to stop and start, I'm going to start at those hills in the back. So at our very center point here, we have some hills, and hopefully you can see this fairly well. We have some hills right here. Let's see, this is on my other crossover point. My other crossover point is about a third of the way up. And so I'm just looking to see what's there. That actually comes down onto this line, and yeah, it's maybe a third, a little less than half. There's a place where it actually goes down below the line, and then it works its way up, slowly getting a little higher until we have a higher place that comes down next to this. Okay. And that goes under that line. And that guy is right about at the halfway point. Okay. And he is about the same height as that one there. And then that goes underneath. Make sure I don't have too many of these little hills coming up. This goes under, and then this comes out, and we have another hill that's bigger here. And then that starts going higher. And then my tree starts coming in here. And contour drawing. Let's see, that tree heads down toward that. My crossover point here has some leaves right there, but there's some leaves that go outside of that. I could spend hours being very, very detailed here, but I don't particularly want to. I want to just get the feeling of this. So that's why I'm sort of doing these a little quicker than I might otherwise. So that my tree comes across through here. And then I can see this mountain back here just a little bit. He's a little bit back in there. And then this tree trunk, let's get that in. I can come back and get more detail later. It's going to come there. And it goes on up into here. Some branches come off of it. And that's a little short of there. And then there's a branch that I see that sort of goes through these leaves. Another branch heading that direction. Branch coming off up that way. Okay, so that at least gets enough of that so I can sort of see what's happening with it. And then let me work my way back up to the other side of this. So none of this goes above that line, it's all below that. And this crossover, this point right here, that's a little over halfway back. It's interesting that, you know, once you have this grid, it really helps you see what's going on that comes down. And there's this row, and there's actually another mountain right back behind there when I look at it really closely. And this is another ridge that comes down. Okay, so now we've got that back row in. So let me come forward to this row right here. So this set of hills right through there, which would be, so this is foreground pretty much up to that point, midground, and far. Tree is in the foreground. So we've got these three different layers in here. Okay, so just a little below this line here. And then it starts going up, and yeah, it's a little over that cross point. Starts going up, and by the time we get here, by the time we get to this point, it's still not halfway, it's about that. And there's going to be some bushes and stuff that go with that, but that's a little additional add-on. Right now we're just wanting to get the basics down here, and you know what's really sort of happening in the basic part of it. Now this very foreground, there's another little line that sort of happens in here where the grass changes a little bit, and it's probably worth putting that in. So this one, we're about halfway here, and then it comes up into here. And then as it comes across through here, there's just some little bushes that are part of that until we get, that's still below that point. And then this bush, so what's its outside shape? It almost is heart-shaped, isn't it? And then when we go to do the shading on it, that'll give us our opportunity to make this look like something other than just a rock. And now inside of here and coming up to that line, okay, so I've got a lot of the basics here. Let's get the bottom of these hills, and then we can bring those lines down. And we have, starting from above here, crossing over to about there, we have that one forward hill on this side, and it's got a couple of pieces to it. And then we have trees all in through here. They go to a little over halfway here. So that's all the trees. And then the bottom of these, I forget what they call it, the talus rock, the rock that sort of comes off of these hills. Maybe a third of the way up there, and then it goes up into that line and then drops back down again and then comes up and above. And then all of these lines come down and intersect into here. And let's see, that's, once again, we could spend lots of time getting all the detail put in, but I'm not concerned at the moment for you guys to get all the detail in here, just the basic of what's happening here. And then there's actually another piece of, yeah, there we go, another piece of rock there and some shadows. Okay, that's got my basics. I'm going to stop at this point. I could spend lots more time, you know, if we want to bring this up to a full finished drawing, you know, and at this point we could erase a lot of that, those lines, because we don't need them any longer. So we could get these out of here and off of our picture, and hopefully I can get them off enough. I could use, I don't, my white eraser is, here it is. So pretty dirty, but let me clean it. It does a better job of picking stuff up than this is my kneaded eraser, you know, one of these ones where you pull and knead. The white soft erasers are really nice for doing this kind of lifting. And I do have one that is pencil width, so if I need to get some skinny lines out, I can. So that stuff's all out of here. Get our structure out. Okay. So then I can start working things as much as I want to. I can start seeing, you know, where these other trees are on top of here. I maybe should have left that on a little bit longer until I got all these trees in, but that's okay. That's that line there. Some trees that come up. And, you know, on these trees, what we're looking for is the fact that they have, where the branches sort of change direction and fill, there's going to be light and dark areas in the trees, and that's what makes them look round, just like when we were doing some of those round objects that we were playing with before. And then you've got these value changes that happen between sections. So like it's quite light. It's quite light on this area, but then there's shadow underneath of these trees. So then they become dark underneath. So those are some of the other things that we're going to be looking for as we go to finish this. I'm going to stop at this point. You guys are going to have time to go and finish a little more than I have. So that's where we're at.